So I got a second-hand Sony RX0 II, which I wanted to always try a little bit, like how does it work together with my Sony RX107 and such. It was a wonderful bargain. I got it for I think about 200 francs, which is about 200 euros. And yeah, today I'm going to play around with it a little bit, and I go directly into recording an S-Log 2 and seeing what kind of footage I get. The sound is recorded with the Sennheiser MKA200 because it's a little bit windy. I adjusted the white balance with this handy white balancing tool, and I will see whether in post-processing how the result is. Walking through this forest, the light conditions are very difficult, and so that it doesn't change around all the time, I record in manual. But there will be some situations where I will be underexposed and overexposed, but it's a good try. So in the beginning of the year, when I made my first video, I thought that I will do lots of videos and this was what I wanted actually to do, to practice a little bit more. But the reality is that my job currently, it's hell. I have absolutely zero focus for anything outside really my job. I start at 6 and I finish at 6, and after that I'm not really in the mood to record some videos and put lots of effort into it. I had 2 weeks of holidays where we were in Turkey, but unfortunately we were sick before the holidays, a little bit during the holidays, and there too the mood was pretty low. Yeah, but now I'll try to be, as always, a little bit more persistent, and let's see where this goes. So now we are, I think, the 2nd of March, and it's still extremely cold. I really hope that the winter is over soon. I'm not such a big fan of cold weather, and I really hope that the sun and the warmth will shoo away all of the winter blues. Yeah, that's usually how it is. So now I'm recording with a Sennheiser microphone. I think with all the wind I should have used the DJI mic too, but maybe the result will not be as bad as I'm imagining it will be. Yeah, I don't have yet a filter adapter for ND filters, so currently I'm recording with a very high shutter speed at 60 FPS. I really don't know exactly what to do with the RX0 II. My initial thought was to have like a second camera that has a very similar color profile to the Sony RX107, because I always noticed, well, the DJI Pocket 3 is an excellent camera, but somehow the footage always looks very different to the one of the Sony RX107. And with that I can have something like a little bit like, not really an action cam, but like vlogging cam or something like very compact that I can just put on the table or talk to like now. And when I want to do some nice B-roll footage, I can use the Sony RX107 and then match the footage pretty well. And also it's not exactly as confusing because both settings and the logic how the camera works are very similar to each other, so I don't have to like overthink everything. I can just record everything with the same picture profile, hope that I do the settings properly, and then put the footage together into one nice little movie. But mixing and matching, that will be something for the next video. Today I'm just trying out the RX0 II for its own, and when I feel comfortable with the settings and such, then I will go to something a little bit more elaborate, like matching the footages and such. And also I need an adapter from, I think it's 32 or 34 millimeters from the cage of the RX0 to the 52 millimeters of the VNDs that are usually sold. I really wonder whether the RX0 II has a little bit of a different color profile than the RX7, than the RX107. I know that the base ISO, for example, for S-Log2 is 1000 and not 800 like the Sony RX107. Yeah, I think Sony tweaked a lot on its colors during the last years. Yeah, this camera came out in 2019, so it's, I think, 6 years old. I don't know when this model exactly was produced, but it's a pretty vintage camera for like the development that took place into like the video camera market in the last 5 years. But nevertheless, I think it's a cool, very cool concept that I wish would exist a little bit more today. Yeah, it seems very, how to say, tough, like an action cam, but with more features that are more like to something like a cinema camera or something that looks nice. I know many people complained that it's not like the X3000 or the FDR X3000, if I remember correctly, which seemed to have been like for many years the vlogging camera and action cam to go with the internal stabilization and such. And many Sony users complained that the RX0 II does not meet like what they were expecting, but for now I'm quite happy. I think the ergonomics with the small, how to say, menu and such works pretty well, even though it's quite fiddly, like to change regularly the shutter speed and the white balance. Honestly, seeing these cameras in 2025 makes me wish that I would have started with making videos much earlier. Now it has been 3.5 years or so that I started like doing really small videos and such, and I think it could have started much earlier if I had like found the bridge into it. And I have so many memories or travels or trips where I would have wished to do some videos. On the other hand, when I think about all the trips that I did already now in the last 2 years, where actually I know how to do videos, I have the gear, and I just didn't do it because I was like too comfortable or too lazy to do it, it's not perfect either. Also, I think that focusing too much on video sometimes, how to say, stops me from doing nice photos, and I also like photography, and doing both at the same time is so difficult, especially when the gear is not designed very well for quickly changing between taking videos and taking photos. I think Fujifilm is pretty good at it, like you switch from photo and then you have all your photo settings, and then you switch to video and then have all your video settings without them affecting each other too much. Like for example with the Sony cameras, when you go to video and you have S-Log a setting and a picture profile, then you change to photos, well then you have to manually remove the picture profile S-Log again, and this is extremely cumbersome and makes it like quite uncomfortable to quickly take a photo in the standard photo profile after having taken a few videos in S-Log, for example. And this is something I hope that Sony will fix in future cameras. So one thing that already annoys me is that when you're changing the shutter speed into the function menu, you see like a preview of the video that you're taking, so you can enable the exposure, but it doesn't show you the exposure meter, like not the histogram, neither how far away you are at the exposure meter. And so you just set the shutter speed, then you go back to the video menu, then you see like, oh, it's too dark, then you set it again, and this could be far more efficient. But yeah, otherwise, as I already mentioned, I think it's a cool concept, and I'm very happy to be able to try it out. Something that would be helpful too would be something like an exposure lock mechanism like Fuji uses it, which means that you can lock the exposure and automatically set it each time you press on the auto exposure lock button. Also, I see a small conceptual problem with the tripod. You cannot pivot it. So if you put it on a flat surface that is not like flat, then you will have to either have like Dutch angle or you have to correct it in post. Not so good. Okay, I think it's time to go home now. I already said before that I want to shut up now, but I think that was wrong. Also, I finally found where I can activate the histogram, so that makes it a little bit easier to see the exposure when recording. Also, I'm quite curious to see the result of the image stabilization, because it does not have a digital stabilization like the RX0 II, just has optical stabilization. And you can stabilize it in Catalyst. I have never done this before. So let's see whether the optical image stabilization is good enough for like a setting like now.